Assalamu everyone, I'm Afnaan from South Manchester Muslim Walking Group, and today we're going on a walk with the National Zakat Foundation and Islamic Society of Britain Connect. I'll just give a bit of introduction of who the group is and what it's about, and then inshallah I'll pass over to Afnaan, who'll tell us more about the National Zakat Foundation. So South Manchester Muslim Walking Group was set up in 2018. It's a group that encourages people to go walking. We go walking every Saturday and Sunday, and mashallah we now have over 2,300 people on our Telegram group and over 500 been for walks. We go every Saturday and Sunday, and we do short walks, medium-sized walks and longer hikes and so on. And today we're doing the Quarry Bank. We encourage people from not just South Manchester but from all over to come, so not just Manchester but beyond. And we've had people from Dubai, from San Francisco, from Europe coming on the walks as well. And we encourage, there are three main purposes. One, to look after our own health and well-being, to help to try and reduce the risk of things like diabetes, blood pressure, stress, and back trouble. We encourage families to come together and also try and encourage families to meet with other families. So that's South Manchester Muslim Walking Group, but I'm now going to pass over to Afnaan, who's going to talk a little bit about the National Zakat Foundation and hopefully answer some questions that you might have about Zakat itself. So, Afnaan.
Inshallah, Bismillah. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. So, as you've heard, my name is Afnaan. I'm from the National Zakat Foundation. I was also a volunteer at Islamic Society of Britain, or ISB, the Connect group, as you heard, and also the Campus North group that's come as well, all from ISB. So yeah, but my day job is for National Zakat Foundation. So I'm the fundraising coordinator. So I work closely with the team, and alhamdulillah, we've been around for about 13 years now, and we've been fulfilling a need that's been missing for a while. Oh, to them, so yeah, to everyone else, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so we've been fulfilling a need that's been missing for quite a while. So we've been around for 13 years. It's for the Muslims in need in our very own communities. Because you'll often find that people in need who are here, they won't ask us directly. And so we wanted a way for them to be able to access it. So that's why we give grants. Essentially, they can apply it online, so it feels a bit more anonymous for them. But then we have a full team that checks everyone to make sure that they're in genuine need as well. But it's kind of to have that revival of the portion of the Sunnah where Zakah is meant to be given locally, as well as internationally. Obviously, now we have the phenomenon of it being given internationally. This is all we've really ever known mostly. But just to return it back to the way it was, so that a portion of it at least comes back to the people in need. Yeah. So anything you learn here today, I've learned from Sheikh Sahel. So he's taught me. He's the CEO of our organisation. He's Sheikh. Basically, he's been head of Arabic Sciences in Amman in Jordan at the Qasid Institute, and also Cambridge Muslim College as well. So alhamdulillah, he's very, very knowledgeable. So he's taught me all the information I've got. Essentially, anything you learn, even though I'm not a scholar myself, since I've been taught, anything you learn can be passed on to anyone you know as well. I've got a full copy of all the slides, inshallah, if you're interested. So, essentially, we're going to speak about zakah. I've got a few sort of frequently asked questions that we can go into. But before that, the first thing is, does anyone know what the actual meaning of zakat is, like linguistically? Obviously, we know it's money given, but the linguistic meaning of the word. Fantastic, that's good, alhamdulillah. Yeah, exactly, it's a purification. It also means growth as well. So that's just quite interesting to know, because normally you just think of it as money given, you don't really think about what the linguistic is. But the reason why it's growth is because if you give it to someone in need around you, it enables them to grow. So if you think, for example, in the past societies that had animal herding, for example, that for them it was like if you had 60 sheep, you can give one to someone in need, and they can start everything from there. They can get that can have lambs, they can have wool, they can use it for clothes, they can sell those clothes, or they can sell that wool, and essentially it enables them to start up for themselves. Hence why it means growth as well. So essentially, when we have money, as time passes over our wealth, a portion of it doesn't actually belong to us. It belongs to those who are in need. So if we don't give it to them, it's almost like we're withholding it. And so obviously that's not good necessarily for us in our lives. So it purifies us to be able to give it to someone. And so actually it's them doing us a favor, because it's one of the obligations in the 5 pillars. It's actually those in need are doing us a favor by enabling us to fulfill our obligation. So in a way, it's like we thank them. It's not that they thank us. So it's an interesting way to think about. which we do kind of different to everyone else today. So there's two important constraints of zakah. Obviously, mainly it's paid to Muslims specifically. Now there is a category in Surah Tawbah. If you read the 8 categories of zakah, 7 or 8, there is a category that's for reconciliation of hearts. So people who are close to Islam, for example, or people who it may benefit, who may be in need. There is a difference of opinion that these people can be given it as well if they're in dire need, especially if there's no one else around you to give it who may be Muslim. Although the preference is mainly Muslim. But in a community like this, I just want to point out, if you give it in the UK, for example, it does help everyone because everyone's on the same housing lists, everyone's on the same needing lists who are in need, everyone's on the same sort of need of food banks and things like this. So when you help Muslims off that list, then it helps everyone else as well because everyone then rises up the list because they're all in need of public services. I'll give you an example. We found a report in the House of Commons that our housing fund that basically helps people with rental arrears and deposits. It's worth about £73 to the UK government. That's how much worth it brings back because it's so much more expensive trying to rehouse people. So if you just give them rental arrears in the first place, it kind of circumvents that. So that's the idea of sort of thinking ahead. And so again, then that way they keep a house, the family keeps a house, they can afford perhaps to start saving things as well, inshallah. And so that go back to the idea of the sheep before. It kind of grows by itself, and so they can start having some growth as well. So let's see. Oh yes, of course. So the pillars, as you know, there's a lot of pillars that are involved in community. It's not just an individual aspect. So I know on the group we posted, some people might have been able to go to Chido Mosque before and pray Dhuhr, alhamdulillah. So obviously this is something that we do in congregation together. We're encouraged to establish it as a sort of thing to do as a group. Now you might be thinking, okay, yeah, that's fine, but how does zakah relate to it? Obviously it's another part, it's the third pillar, but how does it relate? So essentially it relates because it's done in community. You need someone who's in need and you need someone who's able to give. In fact, there's actually a case in history where there was one case where there was a society that managed to actually eliminate the need for zakah, but it's still an obligation. So they had a real problem because they was thinking, right, how are we going to solve this? Because we need to pay it every year. The solution was actually to get grain, which is because it's a long-term store of value, it lasts a while. Obviously it's food as well, but back then it was seen as like a currency in a way. And so they decided, well, the solution is we have to feed nature then. We have to go to the mountaintops and feed the birds and give them grain because there weren't any people around us that needed it. Obviously today we'd say, well, there's other places and other economies that need it, so we'll send it out there. But it was just an interesting case. So you really do need the community to be there. And that's why I'm glad that we have a group like that where people are coming together. That's kind of the idea. It's not just a walk, it's to bring a community. So this is very, very relevant.